Social media channels, and you can take part by sending us your questions, so please do that. We'll try and get through as many as possible through today's show, but it's an action-packed one this week because of course Easter holidays are approaching and the weather is changing. It's warming up finally, some would say.
About time too, yeah.
But how warm will it get? Will it be an Easter record breaker? We'll be taking a look at that.
And people heading abroad as well. The weather may be turning sunnier and drier here, but not necessarily if you're going to the Mediterranean, particularly if you're heading to Spain. We'll be looking at that in detail because they could be in for, well, some lively weather, shall we say.
And if you're travelling back at home across the UK, we'll be taking a look at the travel forecast heading into the Easter weekend. And also, if you suffer from hay fever, or indeed if you get burnt easily, then you'll want to hear about the UV and pollen levels heading into the weekend as well.
John Booth mentioned last week, and PlayStation Nation, allergies have been bad for me this past week, and they have been for me as well, actually. My eyes have been pretty sore because of the hay fever level, so we will have more on that coming up in just a moment. So yes, do send us your questions in. Even if we don't answer them this week, we'll try and answer them in the future. But yes, please get involved. We're here to answer all your weather queries.
How long will the fine weather last? We'll be taking a look at the whole of the bank holiday weekend and into the start of next week. In fact, a lot of people have been talking about high pressure. We've been under the influence of high pressure for more than a week or so. Doesn't always mean pleasant weather.
Wasn't that good at the weekend, was it?
No, that wind
cold
went right through you. David Byrne on YouTube has asked, will the high pressure move south and sit? Well, let's take a look at that high pressure because we've been under the influence of a high pressure sitting over Scandinavia for the past week or so. And here it is over the next week or so. Now, you can see this is Tuesday, Wednesday. It's barely budging at all. So this is centred over Scandinavia into Wednesday, Thursday, Good Friday. It's still there. So
absolutely huge, isn't it? It's
yeah.
Bring thousands of miles. That high pressure influencing from Russia, from central parts of Russia all the way across the UK. It's a vast area of high pressure. And it's quite common to get a setup like this, don't you? Scandinavian high is a classic meteorological term. And it just sits there and blocks the weather and keeps things static.
People get quite excited. People who enjoy the snow and cold weather, people get excited when you get a Scandinavian high pressure in the winter because, of course, you get the winds coming around it like this in a clockwise fashion and you can drag in some very cold air. And that's actually what we saw at the weekend. So even though the sun is rapidly gaining in strength, we had that raw easterly wind through the weekend. Now, things are changing. They've already changed at the start of this week. So although the last week or so has been fairly settled, but with that cold wind, we've seen over the last few days low pressure edge a little closer. You can see that low pressure edging a bit closer. The isobar's tightening up, so we've had that wind, but also we've had some rain and some weather fronts actually creep in from the west. Now, this is on a loop, so this is the same sequence between Tuesday and Friday. And what we've put on here is the jet stream as well as the pressure pattern. And what you can see, actually, the first thing to take note of is that the jet stream is just swerving out of the way of this high pressure. It's like a big roadblock sitting to the east of us. And yeah, it's splitting in two, going around the UK. So the jet stream normally brings us areas of low pressure from the Atlantic. Where are those low pressure systems going? Well, you can see one just tucked into this dip in the jet stream. And watch what happens. Into Wednesday and Thursday, the jet stream actually starts to go around itself. It's something called a cut-off upper vortex. So this vortex of strong winds high in the sky, and then keep that low pressure just pushing into Iberian Peninsula and keep it there heading into the Easter weekend. So that's why we could see some really unsettled weather heading into parts of the Mediterranean, particularly Spain. So we'll have more on that in a moment. But that's all avoiding the UK. The jet stream in two branches going around the UK over the next few days. High pressure starting to exert more control. And actually, instead of low pressure there over the next couple of days to the west of us, what you can see gradually as that low pressure pushes into the Iberian Peninsula is that high pressure replaces it. And so that will change our weather, especially in terms of how it will feel.
So a subtle change in wind direction. We've had those really raw easterly winds, even though it's still high pressure in charge. Just a subtle shift is going to waft some warmer air our way. So that's why our temperatures will be rising over the next few days.
We'll also bring in some much clearer skies from the continent.
So drier air means less clouds, so it won't be as grey as well. And of course, as you said, the sun is so much stronger this time of year, and that will really change the feel of things. Something that we'll really notice tomorrow, because today,
This
as
is
you can
it.
see, it's
This is
still pretty
Tuesday
drab.
afternoon.
It's another drab and cool day for most. There's a bit of brightness, but yeah, look, just
Effectively,
watch.
a weather front just comes in and sits there, and then it gets flattened by that high pressure. Look at Wednesday afternoon. The sunshine comes back. I think Wednesday will
A
be...
bit of low cloud there coming in from the North Sea. Again, classic this time of year, some har and some sea fret possibly in the mornings. But overall, the next few days, Thursday, Friday, you can see the high pressure there, and you can see the temperatures also starting to rise. Just that subtle shift in wind direction. Still quite breezy on Thursday, but then into Good Friday, the isobars spread out, and that's what will change things across the UK. The winds will be lighter, temperatures rising. How high are we going to get? How high are we going to get? That's the big question.
Will it be record-breaking?
Well,
Another question.
will it be record-breaking?
In terms of Easter. Easter's a tricky one to call record-breaking because, of course, it varies.
Statisticians hate it because
It
it doesn't really,
varies.
doesn't really make sense, does
Exactly.
it? You can't compare, you're not comparing like with like.
It's not like Christmas Day, which is the same day every year. Easter, of course, varies year to year. And last year's a good example, actually, in that if Easter was on the same weekend as it is this weekend last year, right? So if it was on the 19th, 20th, 21st kind of weekend in April last year, it would have been 29 degrees, and that would have been record-breaking.
For Easter, almost
For Easter.
all-time April record. It was very close to the all-time April record this time. Last
Yeah.
year. It wasn't far off. But of course, actually, Easter last year was really cold. It was, at the end of March, it was about 12 degrees.
Beginning of April, we went through a cold spell before it got much
really
hotter later in April.
Yeah.
And it's 12, 13, 14 degrees Easter last weekend. But if it was on the same weekend that it is this year, it would have been record-breaking because the highest ever Easter weekend temperature was just under 28 degrees at Heathrow, and that was in 1949, and also repeated again in 2011.
What day? What?
That was on the
day? That
Saturday.
was on the Saturday, right? So was the highest Easter day?
The highest Easter day temperature was 25 degrees, so not as high as the Saturday
We
temperature.
might not, some places might not be far off that this Sunday. Depends.
it
There's a lot of
depends.
uncertainty of the second half of the weekend. Rock solid, it's going to warm up the next few days. The rest of this week, temperatures rising, and we will see these kind of highs on Good Friday. There's a bit more uncertainty. We'll have more on that in just a moment. But these are the values for Good Friday. 20 degrees quite widely across the heart of the UK. The coasts will be cooler, but actually by Good Friday that wind will be easing down a little bit, so that east coast won't be as cold on Good Friday. Still, it'll be some of the coolest conditions. At the south coast also there, a hint of green. The coasts often at this time of year are colder because the sea is at its coldest or close to its coldest.
And it's not just a southeast England warmth.
No, yeah.
So the north of
Murray
Scotland
Firth.
in some sheltered spots, 20, 21 degrees
21
or
degrees,
so.
70 Fahrenheit.
And again, on Saturday, widely, 20, 21, 22 degrees, could just about squeeze a 23. And there's a small chance that we'll get a 24 degrees as well.
Widespread warmth. So this warmth it's arriving over the next couple of days is going to be pretty much across the whole of the UK. However, the eagle-eyed amongst you might just spot that tinge of green in the northwest. That's the first sign of changes, and the second half of the weekend is not quite as clear-cut as the first half of the
No,
weekend.
be looking at the nitty-gritty
It'd be
behind
boring
that.
if it was, wouldn't it? It'd be boring if it was. So it's
Well,
good.
we may as well finish now if it was.
Yes, that's true,
We're
that's
short of things to talk about. No, we're never short of things to talk about, are
Never
we?
sure of
Yeah.
what to talk about. So yes, some fine weather on the way for the weekend. Certainly the first half of the weekend, it is going to turn much sunnier and thankfully much warmer. I think most people will be grateful for a bit of warmth because it has just been so chilly, so cold over recent times. Let's see if we've got any questions coming in. Plenty of questions coming in.
Few Grain 42 got in touch last week asking about their silver DOV in the weekend, and we gave a forecast for them, and he said, or he or she has said, the weather was good, but it was extremely windy and cold. Feels like temperatures were -3, -4 degrees most nights and mornings. I can believe that. You know, they were.
I wouldn't have fancied camping.
They were in
weekend.
the Brecon Beacons.
Was whoa. Tony Ward on YouTube. What is the purple stuff on the jet stream? It's a new graphic that we've got, isn't it? You've been
Yeah, I
working
should have
hard
pointed
on.
that out. But
Nice though. Well spotted, Tony. Yeah, the purple is the core wind speeds.
yeah, so it
it's-
highlights where it's strongest. Using more of that.
Just shows it up a little bit better and avoids the confusion with the winds at lower levels as well. But yeah, well spotted, Tony. That is one of our new graphics, one of our new suite of graphics. So thanks for sending that in. Is it going to be barbecue weather Friday in West Sussex, please? Well, I would say yes, pretty much. I mean, you have to be pretty hardcore at this time of year to get a barbecue. But I think by Friday,
By
it should
Friday.
be all right. It should be nice and warm, low 20s. yeah, be getting cool in the evenings though. Once that sun goes down, it will be turning a little.
Yeah,
yes,
don't forget to bring a cardigan.
Friday,
You'll be fine.
Sussex barbecue weather indeed, and lots of people travelling this weekend, of course. Lots of people will be hitting the roads over the next few days. As we've seen, the weather kind of actually not really causing too many issues. Our friends at the RAC, we work closely with the RAC, they've been doing some predictions for the busiest spots over the course of the weekend. They work with INRIX, who basically analyse the data and look at where's likely to be busiest. And as I say, thankfully the weather shouldn't be adding too many complications. But Good Friday itself likely to be the busiest day in terms of people making leisure journeys on the road. RAC are predicting 27 million leisure journeys this week,
Blimey.
12 million leisure journeys over the weekend, and 4.4 million leisure journeys will be made on Good Friday. And as I said, thankfully, the weather will be playing ball, and actually it looks fine. Doesn't look to be too many hazards in terms of the weather, but there will still be some congestion, no doubt. And this map here is highlighting where the RAC is saying, in conjunction with INRIX, is suggesting some of the busiest roads are likely to be the M5 South, likely to be pretty busy, especially around the middle part of the day, and that section coming down here, of course, coming down to Devon and Cornwall, and why wouldn't you? M25 is always going to be busy, but this section between Junction 4 and Junction 30, the Dartford crossing, particularly going anti-clockwise busy. The A12 also will be busy, and further north, also predicting some of the hot spots, the M62 and the M6. The M62 there between Leeds and Manchester, and also the A64 further north and east, and in Northern Ireland too, parts of the M1. So these are the busiest times on Good Friday through the afternoon. If you want more information on that, you can visit the RAC website. But there's lots of top tips on there about how to prepare for busy journeys. Now, you and I have got kids, so we know the key rule is always have plenty of food and drink and things to keep them entertained, I Spy, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, there is a lot of top tips on the RAC website, and you can find out more exactly there about when is a good time to travel. So these are highlighting perhaps the worst times to travel, but there's lots of advice on there about when perhaps maybe a better time to travel in. As I said, thankfully, the weather will be playing ball for at least Good Friday's travel. Maybe a little bit trickier for Bank Holiday Monday, of course, when people will be, well, a lot of people will be making the reverse journey and going back. But,
not sure you'd call them leisure journeys if you're stuck in those.
No, it wouldn't be much fun, but it wouldn't be much fun.
No, certainly avoid those with a 2-year-old in the car.
This we're looking at.
This is the UV on Good Friday. So we talked about the sunshine, and it more or less will be sunny skies across the whole of the UK, from top to tail. And at this time of year, the sun is gaining in strength. And so these are the kinds of UV levels. For the vast majority, moderate levels. So, yeah, still get burnt from that certainly worth putting sun cream on, even if you've got the kind of skin that tans well. There's still a lot of dangers associated with UV, and still worth putting sun cream on.
A little higher down in the southwest, as we saw on that, a lot of people will be heading down to the southwest. UV levels expected to be high here through Friday and Saturday, so just really do take note of that.
One of the first highs, isn't it, of the year?
Yeah, I haven't seen a high yet.
Simply the fact that it's just that little bit further south, so the sun a little bit stronger.
And of course, the sun is strong, even if it's not. People always associate it because it's getting warmer. The sun's getting stronger. It doesn't necessarily work like that. The strength of the sun is to do with the time of year more than anything. Obviously, when the sun is out, then temperatures will rise. But actually, the peak of the UV levels is around when the sun's at its strongest, which is the middle of June. And the sun is as strong now as it will be at the end of August, even though it's generally warmer at the end of August. It's not necessarily tied in to temperature. It's just about the position of the sun in the sky. More H's on the chart. This is pollen.
Pollen, tree pollen at the moment. So we're pretty much in the peak tree pollen season. And I think about a fifth of hay fever sufferers suffer from tree pollen allergies, and that is high heading into the weekend.
It's been low this week across the north, moderate for the south, but it's rising over the next few days. Just get a bit more sunshine, get a bit more warmth from the trees. Think, oh, what I can do is release a bit more pollen.
Ideal temperatures for tree pollen are around the mid to high teens, I think. So
it might actually be getting a bit too warm by the weekend.
Could do.
And see those levels dropping off.
And also you can start to see them dropping off because the supplies become exhausted if you don't get as much rainfall. But we've had some rainfall this week so far, so of course that's going to help freshen up those supplies, and then you get
that temperature rise that we had at the end of February. Also sort of primed the trees and got them ready a bit earlier. It's one of the reasons why the levels has been so high this year, and yes, I know about it.
Actually, Robert Hughes on YouTube has asked what dates do the different pollens occur. Off the top of my head,
How about you go to the Met Office website where there's a little calendar?
there is a calendar.
There's a special calendar, and it goes through all because we talk about tree pollen, but all the different types of trees.
Google that.
All the different types of trees have different seasons as well. But if you go to the Met Office website and search for pollen, there's a little calendar on there that tells you when the peak season is. Now, a lot of people, more people suffer from grass, and that's obviously peaking tends to be in the summer in June and July. So if you're wondering why levels are high and you're not sneezing, probably because you're a grass pollen sufferer, but it's trees at the moment. But each different tree is slightly different sizes.
Depends on the weather, it depends on the season, because last year it was all quite late, but then suddenly we had sunny and warm weather. Yeah. Around mid-April into May, you had this huge release of pollen because all these plants and trees had been waiting. Now, birch at the moment, and ash and plane and oak and so on. Grass pollen sufferers, it's really heading into June and July, and then the tree pollen disappears. And then much later in the summer, it's all about the nettles, the dock, mugwort, oilseed rape, and the fungal spores.
Look at all this fascinating
for those.
pollen information. Chloe needs rain, YouTube. Is it going to rain in southwest on Easter Sunday, Easter Day itself? Well, there is a bit more uncertainty as we go through the Easter weekend. So there is a possibility, Chloe, but it's just a possibility at this stage. Still quite a bit to play for through the second half of the weekend, and that's not unusual. We're still talking, Easter Day itself is still 5 days away, and into Easter Monday, still 6 days away. So we'll have a bit more on the uncertainty in that in just a moment. But it is a possibility, but certainly no rain expected in the southwest between now and then.
Now, whilst we've had this enormous area of high pressure over Scandinavia, keeping us relatively settled, albeit with that cold wind, the low pressure systems have been diving elsewhere, notably into the Mediterranean. And you do often get unsettled weather in the spring in the Mediterranean, thunderstorms and quite lively showers and so on. But over the last couple of days, some particularly potent weather in that part of the world. This was Greece, huge water spout. Only yesterday, beautiful there. And
snow?
Hail in Italy, South Italy. Yeah.
Just from a vicious thunderstorm.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Huge amounts of slush.
Lots of thundery activity recently in Italy, some torrential downpours, low pressure systems.
Looks a bit drier there.
Yeah,
a couple of days in Italy, at least. But the same can't be said for Iberia. What are these? It's got a rash. Spain's got a rash.
A rash of lightning, rash of thunderstorms.
These are lightning strikes.
Yesterday, yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I expect there'll be more of that sort of thing going into the next few days because, as we mentioned, the jet stream is taking a dive into the Mediterranean. If we run that through, you can see over the next few days, it takes an area of low pressure that's currently sitting to the west of the UK and just forces it into the Iberian Peninsula. What does that mean? Well, basically a lot of wet weather pushing into Spain and Portugal at first on Wednesday. And then that low pressure just sticks around across the Iberian Peninsula.
Because it gets cut off, because that cut off low in the upper atmosphere.
Spinning, yeah. So the winds above it and the winds at the surface just spin in a circle. And
really wet there on the east coast.
These brighter colours there.
Dan Harris, Deputy Chief Forecaster, earlier today, and he was saying there could easily be 100 millimetres of rain on parts of that east coast, the potential for flash flooding as well. So this isn't just a few showers spoiling your holiday. There is actually potential for some quite serious weather across Spain, especially. So it starts western Spain and Portugal, but then it moves east and just lingers, and it's still there really on Sunday.
Yeah.
You can still see further outbreaks of rain. The Balearics also seeing that heavy rain as well. So that could be quite big news through the course of the weekend.
Yeah, hopefully.
Portugal by then does look, at least because we'll get the easterly. So actually Portugal, if you're going to Portugal and after some sunshine, it does improve a little bit.
And there's Italy, there's Greece, so something a little less lively over here, but into the eastern Med and the Middle East as well has had a lot of unsettled weather recently. So at the moment, the jet stream, it's diving into splitting into two pieces, and a lot of unsettled weather heading into the Mediterranean. How long, though, will it be the case that we keep settled weather in the UK? Before we get there, let's see if there's been any more.
How long will this fine and sunny weather last? We've already talked about the temperatures, probably getting into the low 20s, maybe the mid-20s, but what about Easter Day? How melted are your Easter eggs going to get if you're searching for them in the garden?
Depends where you are, really. Depends where you are, because some places could stay sunny and warm Easter Day. Now let's take a look, because there's one weather front, more or less, that is going to cause us a headache through Easter weekend. Now, it's nowhere to be seen on Good Friday. That's why virtually everywhere is sunny and warm. And then we mentioned...
So this is the UK.
This is the UK.
The UK there.
That's a slice of high pressure there. So we've got the isobars there, high pressure across the southern half of Britain. And then this blue line here, that's a cold front. So let's assume for one moment that this is exactly what's going to happen. This is one computer model run. Let's assume it's going to happen.
Cold front comes in, and that's why it was turning colder in the northwest on Saturday.
And there'll be some rain. The wind picks up, some rain and cloud. But for virtually everyone else, it's sunny and it's warm. So,
Sunday.
Low 20s. Sunday, again, Easter Day, assuming this is exactly as it's going to happen, we've got the weather front sinking into central parts of the UK. So, again, the southern half of Britain, mainly bright, warm, best of any sunshine in the southeast. Further north, much cooler air behind this colder front, so temperatures dropping away.
So that's the front in there, the reddy purple. It's because it's kind of half warm, half cold.
It's running into high pressure, however, so it's not a particularly active front. It's not bringing a huge amount of rain, but there is an area of cloud here. There's some patchy rain, and then by Easter Monday, it's not actually progressed much. It is pushing southeastwards. That there is low pressure, and that may well bring some more active, lively showers into the northwest. Certainly some, the wind's picking up cooler air all the time, pushing into that. But again, if this was to happen as it appears here, you'd still have some warm weather in the southeast. If. So because that's one computer model run. Let's say we were to do that computer model run many, many times, just changing slightly the starting conditions at the very start of the forecast. You'd end up with a different position for this weather front every day, and the further into the future you go, the more differences there are. So what we talk about are spaghetti charts here at the Met Office, and you'll see why in a moment. It's just going back to that one.
So this is Saturday. You've zoomed in. It's the same chart as before. We've zoomed in a little bit. There's the UK. That's one computer model run. But if you run the model several times, and that's that one computer model run highlighted in yellow, and then all the other blue lines are the other computer model runs. Green. So they've all got a different idea. Colourblind. That is green.
Colourblind, green. I think that's blue and that's red, isn't it, right? And that's white. And, okay. Glad we cleared that up. So you can see there's some differences, but the vast majority on Saturday keep that weather front in the northwest of the UK. Virtually everyone else sunny and warm. So fairly high confidence on, eastern Scotland, England, Wales, sunny and warm on Saturday. Now this is Easter Day. Remember, it's across central parts of Britain, and this is where it starts to look messy. Someone's toddler has got their crayons out, and this is the type of picture that my daughter would draw and say it's a pig. And I'd say that's lovely. That's a really good picture.
But that's basically the UK is under there, and so the front could be in any of these positions basically, and that's why there's more uncertainty about Sunday. But the general theme is a weather front is coming in. We know that. It's just the position of it. It could be down as far as the Wash. It could still be back across northwest.
You probably can't see, but you can just about pick out East Anglia in the southeast, and hardly any of these computer model runs have the weather front there. So you can say that it's most likely to stay fine in the southeast. It's just elsewhere where it's starting to change.
And then
heading into Easter Monday then, and remember that weather front, it's all starting to get a bit messy. There it is on that one computer model run, low pressure to the northwest, and it's anywhere from the continent to northwest Scotland. So it's actually starting to slow down, and some models have it pushing back the other way. But either way, most parts of the UK by Monday are going to see more cloud, certainly lower temperatures. There's just that chance that across the far southeast we keep the warmth right the way through the 4-day weekend.
What we're showing here is basically the uncertainty. So the uncertainty grows as we go through the weekend. Pretty confident that most places Saturday will be fine. Sunday, Monday, well, just where will that weather front be? Some places in the southeast will hang on to the fine weather, probably into Monday as well, but just a big question mark about exactly where that front is, and it makes such a big difference.
Yeah, but not in terms of being wet particularly. It looks like it's a change to cooler weather, certainly cloudier weather in many places, but I suspect that even by Easter Monday there'll be a lot of dry weather around. There'll just maybe be more showers, more bits and pieces of rain here.
Next week, however, that low pressure will take over, and there's a strong signal that next week it will turn more unsettled with low pressure, and most of us will see some rain. So good news for Chloe, who wanted some rain. There does look like there will be more rain as we go into next week, and we'll have more on that in the 10-day trend tomorrow, which you'll be able to watch on YouTube, and we'll put that on Facebook as well through Wednesday afternoon, as we usually do. Any more questions come in?
Harvey 123. Any thunderstorms after this warm weather? Possible into next week, but not caused by the warmth.
No, I think Harvey's perhaps alluding to that warm spell. We get southerly, we get Spanish plume, and it's not that kind of breakdown. It's more a standard low pressure coming in from the west, bringing its own showers. So no, it's not that kind of setup. It's not the heat and humidity then triggering thunderstorms. This is wet weather coming in from the Atlantic. So yes, there will be showers next week, and they could be heavy and thundery, but it's not that kind of thundery breakdown. What's the weather in Banwen the weekend? Rodri Morris asks. Now, you're our local Wales expert. I don't know where Banwen is. Do you?
It's in Wales. It's in Wales, Rodri.
I'm really sorry, Rodri.
I know that.
Where that is, but
it's a lovely location in Wales.
Dry and sunny on Saturday, and just increasing cloudy on Sunday, and possibly some rain around by the time we get to Monday. But yeah, so you don't know. You're not going to be allowed back in Wales. That is shocking. That is shocking. Yeah. Does Gavin Wilcox on YouTube, does a colder than average spring brings a warmer than average summer? If you look at last year, yes. But there is no set pattern to that at all. So we've had quite a few questions in actually about the summer outlook. How is it looking at the moment? The longer range, the 3-month outlook is suggesting that slightly higher pressure is more likely than lower pressure. Slightly higher temperatures are more likely than lower temperatures. A trend towards perhaps some fine weather as we go into spring and early summer. But nothing unusual about that. And of course, any individual spell of hot weather can't be forecast at that kind of range. I'm pretty sure that this warm weather is happening over the next few days, but the longer term, yes, it does look a little bit drier than average, but don't believe what you read in the newspapers would be my suggestion. Stick to the Met Office, and you can follow us, of course, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram, and on Snapchat as well. We'll always have the very latest for you. Thanks for sending in your questions, and please keep them coming in. Even if you're not watching this live, you can still send the questions in. We'll try and answer some as we go into next week. Have a fantastic Easter. Enjoy the weather if you can. Don't forget the sunscreen. Don't forget the snacks and the drinks if you're heading out by car. Yes, thanks very much for watching. We'll be back again this time next week.